This story is brought to us from Fox5Atlanta.com. This story comes out of, it's spelled Buchanan, like President Buchanan, Buchanan, Georgia. But one of my viewers advised me that they pronounce it Buchanan, so Buchanan, Georgia. Of course they would, because it's Georgia. The rest of the country would say Buchanan, but in Georgia we say Buchanan. So it's Buchanan, Georgia, I guess. But the city of, I'll say it that way, the Buchanan. The city of Buchanan in Haralson County hired an outside investigator to look into some recent disturbing behavior by the town's mayor. Now, I did the editorial of this guy when he was a state trooper, and a tragedy occurred, which we're going to rehash here, or recap. And I remember when I did the editorial, I believe it was the aunt of one of the victims. It was a relative of one of the victims. I believe it was her aunt, if I'm not mistaken. That it came and said, thank you for doing this story, that it needed to be told, that this guy needed to be exposed. Well, the guy became mayor, and I think at the time he was running for mayor when I did the editorial. But now that he's mayor, he's back in hot water. Talking about A.J. Scott, who was a law enforcement officer, became a mayor. Mayor A.J. Scott's actions at a Bremen bar and a second encounter with police late one night in a park behind the Buchanan City Hall. A.J. Scott waits to see whether he'll be retried for what happened in his previous job, the vehicular manslaughter homicide arrest, due to his actions as a Georgia state trooper. In 2015, Scott broadsided a car full of teenagers along Highway 27 in Carroll County. The trooper was not responding to a call, but was still driving more than 90 miles an hour when he crossed into a 45 mile per hour zone. He was not running lights or siren. The other car was heading in the opposite direction and made a left turn just as the trooper crested a hill. The driver said because Scott was driving so fast, he didn't see them until it was too late. He didn't have time to stop. So Kylie Lindsay and her best friend, Bella Chinchilla, died in the back seat. One was 17, one was 16. The driver and a second person were injured but survived. But Kylie and Bella did not survive. Shortly after the accident, Georgia State Patrol fired Scott. They just fired him. In 2019, he finally went on to trial of vehicular homicide charges. The jury deliberated, and the judge ordered a mistrial, accusing the DA of not disclosing all the evidence to the defense. Both the DA and the judge later recused themselves from the case. So to tie it up here a little bit, this guy basically is accused of going 90 miles an hour, doesn't see the car in time, kills these two innocent teenage girls, just trying to get home probably. And they order a mistrial because, well, the DA didn't play by the rules. And then the judge and the DA recuse themselves. That's fishy. That's not suspect, is it? But the Georgia Supreme Court has yet to rule whether a special prosecutor from DeKalb County will be allowed to retry Scott. They should retry his ass and put him in prison. You or I would be in prison. They wouldn't do a mistrial for somebody who wasn't a law enforcement officer. I tell you that. Leslie Woods, Bella's mom, said, "We're just looking for justice for our girls, and we're going to be in it for the long haul." Kylie's mom, Kelly Lindsay, that may be the one, her mom, that commented on my YouTube video, not her aunt. But her mom, Kelly Lindsay, says, "It's really tough to grieve my daughter with everything that continues to happen." Yeah, he got away with it. He's mayor. He's going on with his life. I mean, did the guy, I don't even think did he get anything? Did he get a citation or anything? Or was it like, well, he's a state trooper and it just happened. They pulled in front of a state trooper, and because that's how it works, right? When you're a cop, you can pretty much do anything. I mean, you look at all the cops that I talk about have violated the department policy or the law, and look at how many have actually ever been convicted. This many accused, this many convicted. or even punished. Very few. Shortly after the mistrial, A.J. Scott won the race to be mayor of Buchanan, a town of around 1,300 that serves as the Haralson County seat. And that decision bothered the victims' families. Hell yes, it did. Bothers anyone that has a soul. According to Buchanan police incident reports obtained by Fox 5 I-Team, Scott called a Buchanan police officer on that September 15th to give him a ride from a Bremen bar. That bar is about 6 miles outside of Buchanan, and that officer was the lone cop patrolling Buchanan at the time of night. A bar employee said Mayor Scott was very intoxicated and they were trying to close the bar, but Scott kept trying to buy alcohol. After the officer put him in the patrol car, that's A.J. Scott, he had to go back to retrieve the City of Buchanan budget paperwork that Mr. Scott had left at the bar. The city budget paperwork. Your budget for your city, look, City of Buchanan, your budgetary paperwork was being completed by a guy who was throwing them back. Even worse, the report said a bar employee said Scott was being rude and got up from the bar and started unzipping his pants. Yeah, he's the mayor. But not only is he the mayor, he's the golden boy that got away with vehicular homicide. It goes down from there. I'm not going to keep going through this. You can read it in the description box. It's very lengthy. And there's even a news release by the Buchanan City Council. I'm not going to read it here, but they give a really big statement here saying they take seriously any allegations made against its elected officials. Well, we shall see, because you don't take very seriously allegations made against state troopers. That's for sure. Mistrial. And it's funny, the judge calls a mistrial, accuses the prosecutor, and then both of them recuse themselves. Am I the only one that sees that this A.J. Scott is the golden child, the golden boy? Well, guess what? It's time to pull off that gold and put this guy in prison.